Yo, everybody, we made it to Friday. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. February 16th. We got to talk about cars. This new report by Cars, Farley on Ford, and an ASOTU CON speaker on Jimmy Fallon.
Oh.
Literally, ASOTU CON speaker was on the Jimmy Fallon Show. Not just on the show, not like panned across them in the audience. They were on the stage with Questlove. It's a whole thing. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Get to it.
Oh, yo, listen, you and I were on the ground yesterday, dealership all day long,
Yep.
kind of grinding away on process. And it blows my mind. And everybody who's done work like this understands that you can take this very small sliver of the overall operations and make massive improvement in process by just focusing on one thing. I just can't believe what that does. Like, as many times as you see it, I still can't believe it.
It's unbelievable. And you can spend 4 or 5 hours and still barely get to the bottom of it and
feel like you didn't get anywhere.
Retrain it. No, but I think it's important for dealers just to think about, and for anybody. I mean, this applies to us in our organization. It's like, how do we take this thing that we're doing that we've thought like it's there and it's working, and how do we break it down a little bit to the maniacal and go, how do we unwind this, rewind it, put it back together again so that it actually supports the thesis that we're trying to accomplish, serves the customer, serves the end user, serves the employee really, really well. And like, you can't do that every single day for every single process, but over time, really mapping to that, should on paper, you absolutely should.
The reality that no matter how good your process is, that personal accountability being the real linchpin in the whole thing, each individual person being willing to be like, engage a process, be willing to be flexible when it breaks down, help coach it so it doesn't break down. Feels really good that a business has been very successful and running for a very long time, still has these issues. That makes me feel better about like ASOTU world, right? Because we're constantly like, oh, how does we break this? You know, from the outside, you see a bunch of content. From the back end, we're always like, okay, we got to do that, and things break. And like, it was just encouraging to see that, like, that's just a part of like growing something. Period.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we got? Well,
speaking of growing something.
Oh, that's
Paul,
a good one.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll just
stop that. We have grown. The podcast world of ASOTU is ever growing. But yesterday we hit the 100th episode of Auto Collabs. If you haven't heard out Auto Collabs, you should go check it out.
This is a great episode.
It is our long form podcast. The most recent one with Michael Wood of Checkered Flag Auto Group is amazing. We also released 23 podcast episodes on our In the Dirt podcast. You can search any podcast platform for In the Dirt with ASOTU, or just In the Dirt. It should come up. We've got companies like Quantum 5, Cars Commerce, Outsell, Use, LotLink, Stream Companies, a bunch of dealers that we met at NADA all across the floor in this podcast, really talking about what's going on in the industry. And they're all real quick. They're all like 7 to 10 minutes. So you can like 2x speed 23 episodes in like the time it takes you to listen to one Joe Rogan.
It's great drive. It's great drive time content, walking the dog content, because a lot of what we hear from NADA is that people go around and can't see everything, don't have time to understand even what everybody does or the people behind what it does. So the goal here is really to bring that to you in bite-sized chunks so you can be like, oh, that's what that company does. Right now I know. Maybe I should call them, or maybe I should, like, we're trying to make things easy for you to consume. And we do it via content and try to tee it all up for you. So check those out. Michael Wood, I can't wait to meet him at ASOTU CON. ASOTU CON is coming up less than 90 days now, 88 days. Hotel room block is going to be open really soon. Tickets are available now, still early bird pricing if you want to get them. We have a lot of big announcements coming up about this. The speaker list is really stacking up. We're going to start to drop and announce speakers. There's a bunch on the site already. So if you go to ASOTUCon.com, there's already plenty of reason to be there. But this is going to continue to ramp up, and us releasing new information the closer we get to it. So stay tuned.
Speaking of releasing new information, Paul.
Oh, that
segue.
Nice.
My segue. I might not have gotten it last night, but my segue game is on.
Segue is on. All right, here's the deal. Our friends at Cars Commerce are leveraging their data to provide a new monthly, they're calling it the Industry Insights Report, that will pull out key car shopping data across their platform. And as you know, they have access to a lot of shopper data, a lot of behaviors. So they sent this to us before they released it. They released it just yesterday. You can click through in the link in the show notes to see the full thing, but we're going to give you a summary to help just break it down. So first of all, shift, Kyle, what we'll do is I'll say a little thing. You say a little thing. Okay.
Got it.
We get long if we don't. First, there has been undergoing a shift to a buyer's market. The auto industry seeing potential shift toward a buyer's market in 2024, driven by this combination of lower prices, a 36% year-over-year increase in new car inventory, and cars staying on dealer lots for longer. That's just what happened. So what's that put? The shopper in the driver's seat.
There you go. The driver's seats are a little bit harder for shoppers. Even though new car prices have dipped again, the total vehicle cost is still elevated due to things like interest rates. So, however, the new car pricing index revealed that the total cost to purchase and finance a vehicle is still 32.7% above MSRP. That includes that's not just like what the retail price of the car is, but all taxes, tag, title, finance, insurance on top of that. So still,
it's not with all bad news, because there are now increased options for budget conscious consumers, with a notable uptick in the availability of new cars under 30,000. We haven't uttered that in a while. With a 63% year-over-year increase, indicating more options with a more accessible price range. The market is still below average, though, down 79% when compared to pre-pandemic 2019 levels. So, we're moving in the right direction, but it's not at all where we were in 2019.
Yep. Used car scarcity is at an all-time high, even though we're seeing new cars coming back and a slight decrease in average prices. An 800,000 vehicle drop in availability exacerbates the scarcity of used cars, indicating increased volatility in the market this year and a high need for monitoring the lease returns that may or may not be coming to project future inventory.
I know, not a lot of leases
still
going
dicey,
on 2-3 years ago. Absolutely.
Yep.
Last point, growing EV inventory and market adjustments are in full swing. We know this already. The EV market's fluctuating with 136.7% increase in dealer inventory. So, used EVs seeing some uptick. That makes a lot more sense with affordability, but this year is going to be all about figuring out the EV, I think.
Yep, I agree. It's figuring out the EV and keeping your used car inventory tight. Actually, the dealer that we were at yesterday said, hey, it's the hardest time that we've seen in a long time to acquire the right used vehicles at the right price points. And so masters of used and figuring out EVs. That's
Speaking of figuring out EVs, segues. We're just cracking them over the fence today. During the Wolf Research Global Auto Conference in New York, Ford CEO Jim Farley announced a strategic shift toward developing smaller, profitable, keyword there, EVs amidst the changing market and a new dynamic with the UAW post-strike. So he's saying basically Ford is recalibrating its full EV strategy, focusing on a platform of smaller, affordable vehicles to be profitable within their first 12 months. Farley's emphasizing the need for a solid plan, and this quote we're about to read is just fantastic. And we're just going to read it verbatim. So he said we need vehicles with better operating costs than competitors like Corolla or Civic. So when you think of the vehicle size, think that. This is a quote from Jim Farley. It is non-negotiable that we are going to allocate capital to a new affordable electric vehicle and have to make money in the first 12 months, he said. Talking about a message he gave to a team, he said this, and I don't want a bullshit roadmap. Wow. I want a real plan. And if you can't execute that plan, we ain't launching the car.
Bro got a little sideways on the second half of that one.
No, he just hit the finger wagon started. He's like, let me tell you something.
He's like, snap, snap, snap. He got his inner 13-year-old middle school girl in on him. I mean, it was nuts. Like, that was wild.
So I think he's had enough. And he's like, listen, I don't want. Okay. So this kind of ties back to what we were just talking about a lot with this kind of like guessing on where the EVs are going to go, and are going too hard on these big, gigantic EVs. They made them. They're not profitable. They realize it. The stock market's giving them the business for it. And now I think it's just like they know Like, if we don't make this profitable, like, he gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, he knows that for sure. Yeah. And he's like, oh, the customer wants this to be a little bit cheaper so they can afford it. Let's try that one.
Well, it's the only practical way to go. He also was asked and talked about the traditionally good relationship Ford had with the UAW. He said something about the recent strike negotiations, and we quote again, "That was a moment for us. Clearly, our relationship has changed. Does it have an impact on business? Yes."
Oh,
I want to go to this conference. I feel like
know.
I feel like
Sounds
people just
like-
getting real.
Sounds like these people had them machetes and shotguns out. It's wild.
We should get them to a ASOTU Con. Come on, Jim. Come to a
There you
ASOTU Con. Be awesome.
Speaking of bringing speakers to ASOTU Con.
Oh,
Segue.
You know, when you announce a keynote speaker and then just a couple weeks later, he shows up on the Jimmy Fallon Show, you gotta know you're doing the right
felt
things.
pretty good about that one.
Will Guidara and his wife showed up yesterday on a segment of the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. The legendary restaurateur and author of Unreasonable Hospitality is Will Guidara, and his wife is Chef Christina Tosi, the founder of Milk Bar. If you've ever had like a lot of their products, they made a little Valentine's Day treat with Jimmy and Questlove, did a little dream weaving for them because if you haven't read the book, it's all about these like particular wonderful moments that they put together. And so they researched like Jimmy's and Questlove's favorite little snacks and desserts and helped them, had them make it. It was a little fun segment. Talked about how Unreasonable Hospitality was on The Bear. If you haven't watched The Bear, it's a good show.
Amazing
it's
series.
Not like, you know, there's some wholesome, questionable things there, but it's really good. So,
But it is the restaurant business.
it is out and out the inner city restaurant business. It's perfect, but it's pretty cool to see that. Like,
It is. I mean, I think it's just an acknowledgement. And Will Guidara obviously owned 11 Madison Park, legendary, rated the best restaurant in the world at one point in New York City. So they kind of knew each other, but we're so excited to bring this level of relatability and, I don't know, human interaction to ASOTU Con and to the industry in a deeper way. We know he's been making the rounds a little bit, did something with Mazda, did something with Walzer just recently. And so he's going to be at ASOTU Con, which is a great reason to come to ASOTU Con and meet him and hear how he's going to overlay this level of hospitality thinking over top of what we do every day. Because let's face it, we are hosting guests by the thousands every single day through the service lanes, through the sales department, on phones, right? Hospitality it doesn't even have to be an in-person thing, right? You can express hospitality on the phone, by the way, BDCs. You can do it. The best BDCs do it great.
They do.
I don't know. I think that's
into hospitality, right in auto. Bringing it to the game. Let's go.
Well, we hope you had a great week. I think Kyle's shipping off to Disney sometime soon, so we're gonna have some guest hosts next week. We'll try to hold down the fort and not burn the place down while you're gone, huh?
Thank you.
We'll see you next week, everybody.